The 5 things that you need to know this morning to get going on your day. Let's start with number 1, and face masks. Listen to this news story. This is a story you probably won't hear anywhere else, but according to new data out this morning, face masks could actually be inadvertently giving us COVID immunity, protecting us by making us asymptomatic and actually giving us protection in more than one way. That's right. And here's a chart. We're going to go through this chart in a second. But academics have suggested in one of the most respected medical journals in the world, the New England Journal of Medicine, that this unproven but promising theory that universal face mask wearing might be helping reduce the severity of the virus and ensuring that a greater proportion of new infections are asymptomatic. So if this hypothesis is borne out, then universal mask wearing could become a form of inoculation that would generate immunity and thereby slow the spread of the virus in the United States and elsewhere, according to the data. And look at this mask chart that they've provided and just see how, if wearing like these surgical masks, when you sneeze, wearing these things, it basically blocks all of it. While talking, while coughing, while sneezing. By having this, it's basically dropping it down to effectively nothing and could make us totally inoculated from these types of viruses. So face masks would become the new normal, folks, for years to come. That's why so many companies are getting behind creating new masks and different designs. You watched the NFL the other day. Every team had their different logos and things. I guess this is going to be the new normal. If you saw the newsletter the other day, we featured that new Louis Vuitton face mask, which was crazy. It's like, honey, wasn't it like $1,000? Yeah, I think it was like, she's not answering, but it's like $1,000 for a Louis Vuitton like face mask. So the new normal. The next thing you need to know about this morning, you're not going to see this on the mainstream media. You're not going to see this on CNBC or MSNBC or Fox or anywhere else. AstraZeneca, of course, one of the makers of the big vaccine, they've been given billions of dollars in taxpayer money, right? You've helped bail them out, essentially. And guess what we're finding out this morning? That even after you've bailed them out in taxpayer dollars, guess what? They're raising drug prices on you. That's their way of saying thank you for bailing us out. That's right. AstraZeneca, which is receiving government money right now to develop the vaccine, has been aggressively raising prices on all of its other drugs this year. So if you have prescriptions that you're getting from AstraZeneca, you may have noticed that your prices are going up significantly across the board. That's their way of saying thank you. They hiked prices on some of its biggest selling medicine by as much as 6% this year. And of course, the overall inflation rate in the United States, what their argument is, hey, we're just trying to keep up with inflation. Really? Well, we're no idiot. So you're just trying to keep up with inflation. And inflation is about 1%. But you've raised prices about 6, 7, 8%. How does that keep up with inflation? We're not buying it. When you watch this show, you're educated. When you hear these big companies who just want to be greedy and line their pockets, this is exactly what happens on a regular basis. The little guy gets screwed once again. So they're getting government bailout money, you're paying for it, and they're raising prices on you. This is the kind of stuff you need to write to your members of Congress about and tell them you won't stand for it. But they're all bought and sold by big pharmaceutical companies anyway, so we'll see if they pay attention. But at least we're talking about it here on the show, and this is why we need a wholesale change in Congress and get these bums thrown out in their crony capitalism. Here's a third thing you need to know about this morning, those wildfires and the very latest out west. Troubling data as they're continuing to deal with these massive fires. California Governor Gavin Newsom, though, started his Monday meeting with President Trump, because President Trump is out there, by thanking the commander-in-chief for his help on these wildfires. Gavin, this is one of the, unfortunately, 13-year-olds who passed away in the car. Entire communities have been devastated by this. But Gavin Newsom got a chance to meet with President Trump yesterday. And if you don't think that climate change is having a profound impact in the way the United States is dealing with all of these storms and hurricanes, then you need your head examined. I mean, we've seen repeated wildfires, catastrophic environmental events in this country, and unlike anything we've ever seen before. And this morning, we're dealing with another hurricane barreling down on the Gulf Coast. We've seen massive soil erosion thanks to what unfolded with the BP deepwater oil rig disaster down there, which destroyed root systems. So entire communities like in Plaquemines Parish in Louisiana could be wiped away and deal with historic flooding that we're going to see over the next few days. We could see upwards of 24 inches in a short amount of time down there. But back to California for a minute. I thought it was pretty ballsy. Governor Newsom sitting there across the table from President Trump, and he did it in a very diplomatic way. He started off by saying, Mr. President, I want to thank you for the unprecedented amount of aid that you've been able to provide to California to combat these wildfires and to help us federally right now. So thank you for that. But he said, look, we can agree to disagree on politics. He said, but there is one thing that's fundamentally true. He said that 57% of the land in this state, in California, is federally run. 3% is state forest lands. And overwhelmingly, all of the fires, almost an overwhelming number of these fires have taken place. 29 of these massive fires have taken place on federal land. So President Trump has been bashing California, saying that this state is mismanaged itself so poorly and that they haven't done proper cutting in these forests. They haven't cleaned up the brush in these forests, which is a pipe dream. The idea that California, the size of this thing, could clean up that much brush is ridiculous. With the amount of high winds and intense heat that they're seeing on top of that, it's not just a matter of cleaning out a few branches. But Gavin Newsom's point is, hey, wait a second. Those are federal lands. We have no jurisdiction over them. And yet those are the areas that are burning the most. 29 fires in those areas, which is carried under other communities and destroyed entire communities. President Trump, for his message, said, look, well, right before they had this meeting, President Trump reiterated his point. He said, when trees fall down after about 18 months, they become very, very dry, said the president. They become really like a matchstick, and there's no water pouring through it. They'll just explode. Yeah, California doesn't get any rain. Hardly gets any rain at all. Yes, but these are on federal lands. And he also said, and leaves, too, all these leaves, dried leaves on the ground. It just sets up, it's really like fuel for a fire, he says, quoting him. So they have to do something about it, he says. And he says, please, I respect the difference of opinion fundamentally on this issue of climate change. But Gavin Newsom said, look, the science is in. That climate change is real, and California experienced its hottest summer on record. And they've been having these regular, continuous wildfires year after year after year, which has just been totally demoralizing to the people in California, obviously, who've been dealing right now already with COVID-19. And now on top of that, they're having to deal with this wildfire situation. So here was Gavin Newsom and President Trump yesterday, and Gavin Newsom sort of thanking him for this, but also pointing out that there is climate change. Mr. President, with all due respect,
we're sharing maps, we're sharing resources, we're prioritizing, we're doubling the number of acres federally managed, state managed, and I will say just humbly, we've got to double it still, meaning the partnership was significant. It was first in California's history with the U.S. government, but we're going to need to do a lot more in the extent we can provide.
That's something I feel so strongly about. You can knock this down to nothing. You go to Europe and...
So there's a president agreeing with him, and it seemed to be a good conversation because I guess when first you praise the president, then that's a good, smart move. I want to thank you first. It was very diplomatic instead of coming out and being nasty to him. Look, and even President Trump in some respects has praised Gavin Newsom in different quarters. So we'll see what happens here, and if the federal government is able to step in and do anything to quell these wildfires and give assistance in this state. We'll talk more about state and local assistance coming up a little bit later when we talk about the stimulus and why this is a big piece of this new stimulus plan that we're going to see today. But again, these wildfires out of control. So our thoughts and prayers are with anyone out there right now who's dealing with this just nonstop plume of smoke and ash that's falling from the sky. The fourth thing you need to know about this morning is the election. We've got some new polling numbers out this morning. And look, there are people that are betting millions of dollars right now. And I'm not talking just donors on this election. No, there are millions of dollars that are being bet just in Vegas sports betting odds style. Literally. And right now it has overwhelmingly Biden winning this election. So people are just betting. They have no dog in they have no dog in this race. They have no horse in this race. What is it? No dog in this hunt. They're just sports betting types. And so they're betting right now that Biden is going to win significantly, 76% right now. Here's the 538 latest polling number out this morning. Biden is favored to win the election, 76 out of 100 to Trump's 24. Huge differential right now. With 40,000 times that they run these simulations, 40,000 times, Joe Biden keeps winning 76% of the time. Now, it's taking into a lot of factors, like that Joe Biden wins Florida. President Trump is doubling down their efforts on Florida right now. Former Mayor Mike Bloomberg yesterday vowed that he's going to pump $100 million into Florida to support Joe Biden, which at this point is really only going to be ad spend. What else could it be? It would be encouraging if Bloomberg was going to send this money into Florida. You know, there's a lot of get out the vote outreach efforts that could use that money. We'll see if any of it gets allocated in that way. I would be encouraged in that way. But right now it looks like it's just going to be television ad spend in Florida. So if anybody of you watching right now from Florida, get ready to just be inundated with more and more ads because President Trump is rolling out more ads there. And so is Joe Biden over the next few weeks that you'll see in Florida. But these numbers are interesting with 76% right now. Pretty stunning. But, you know, there's some new polling out this morning also that shows we are not that far apart. We have more in common with each other than we do uncommon. So I want to take you through some of this new data that just came out this morning. We all agree on certain things universally. Several rights and freedoms that an overwhelming bipartisan number of you in these recent polls support. 93% of those surveyed believe in clean air and clean water. 93% believe in clean air and clean water for our families, for our children, for our communities. Who are the 7%? Who are the 7% that do not care about clean air or clean water? I'm sorry, but if someone polls you, says, hi, Mr. Smith, let me just ask you right now, let me just take my own sample here in our chat, in our comments. Do you support clean air and clean water? Leave me a comment below that says, yes, I support clean air and clean water. If one of you says, no, I do not support clean air and clean water, that's it. You're banned. I can't have that. I think there are some things we could all sort of get behind, right? Clean air and clean water being one of them. Who are the 7% in this survey that said they don't support it? I just don't get that. I don't know who they are.
Come on, man.
Exactly, Joe. Who are these people? I don't get it. What else is in this data? Protection of personal data. This is overwhelming. 93% of you believe that you should have a right to your own personal data, personal banking, personal medical records, all of those things. Personal emails, data, family, health records, money record, all of that should be personal, right? No one else should have access to that. Again, 93% support that. Who are the 7%? Can we just take this 7% of people and send them to Mars, for crying out loud? 7%. Unbelievable. Listen to this. 92% believe, we all agree in the country, 92% agree to a quality education. 92%. Where are those 8% that don't think we should have quality education in this country? I bet those 8% or 7%, they're always like the contrarians that always want to tell you, even though the sky is blue, they want to tell you it's red, just to be contrarian, just to be a pain in the butt. You know those people, right? 92% believe in education, a quality education in the United States. And yet we have terrible quality of education in the United States compared to other countries. 92%. Here's another 92% for you this morning. 92% want affordable health care in this country. 92%. There's 8%, though, that say, I want it to be expensive. I don't get it. 89%. 89% of you say you would want the right to have a job. 89%. Want the right to have a job in this country. fair and equal employment in this country. So 11% of you do not think it's right to have a job, don't think we should have a right to have a quality employment in this country. 93% want clean air and clean water. Who are those 7%? Guess what, though? It doesn't stop there. I love this stuff. I think this stuff is fascinating because I think there's so much more that we have in common that we're not, that if you watch the mainstream media, they want to just divide us as much as possible. 16 rights and values polls were also included in this. A majority considered every single one either somewhat or very important to becoming an American today or being an American. Even issues like immigration, 66% believe in strong immigration. And the right to immigrate into America, a woman's right to choose, 72% that any decision for her body and her personal life, 72%. That includes Republicans and Democrats. That seems to be a typically divisive topic, but it's not actually. More of us agree on those things than disagree, that a woman should have a right to her own body than the government. The survey also found that the biggest gap, here's the biggest issue. I'm going to quiz you guys in the chat. Let me know. Let me see if you can guess what the biggest and most divisive issue, where we are most spread apart. Anyone want to take a guess? I'm going to just watch the chat here. Let me see. Anybody have a guess? Anybody have a guess? Well, no one's getting it. No one's getting it. Well, in fact, the biggest area that we are separated apart in is the issue of race and policing, which is troubling, and this is upsetting to me. Although 6 in 10 agree that Black Americans and other racial minorities are targets of racism in policing. That total included 84% of Democrats, with only 32% of Republicans thinking that race in policing is an issue. So 32% of Republicans don't think it's an issue. They don't think it exists. They don't think it's real. Ask any black friend or person of color that you know whether it's an issue or not. 32% of Republicans don't think it is. 84% of Democrats do. So that's the one area where we are the widest apart in this country, is on that particular issue, on the election. Here's something else funny in the election before we move on to our fifth story this morning. President Trump, the Trump campaign, put out this Make America Great Again campaign. Anybody, I'm just going to play this at home. Anybody see a problem with this? Support our troops. New promotion, show your support by voting for Trump. Anybody see a problem with this? Anybody at home? Can you find out what the problem with this sign, this poster is all about? This is a big Trump campaign. You'll see it on Facebook and other places right now. Anybody have a problem with it? Anybody know what the issue is? All right, I'll tell you. Those jets are actually Russian fighter jets. That's right. Those are Russian fighter jets. So we've got Russian fighter jets and our troops. There you go. That's the latest on the election.
Come on, man.
Sorry, Joe. Got to put some Russian in there, right? Supporting our troops, especially when they've been targeting Americans. That's great. Here's the fifth thing you need to know about this morning: Venus. For as long as scientists have been studying Venus, they've thought it was an entirely dead planet. But something strange happened earlier this year on Venus. They discovered that it's actually very much alive. That's right. Venus is very much alive. And we've thought it was dead with volcanic activity and other things. Then something just happened this week, which makes things even stranger. They've now discovered gas in the atmosphere of Venus. And according to everything they understand about Venus, this gas shouldn't be there at all. That's right. It shouldn't even exist. This type of gas, here's today's word of the day. This type of gas is called phosphine. It's a toxic gas that's only created by one thing: microorganisms. Yes, that's right, life. So before everyone starts screaming and jumping up and down about Venus, I need to emphasize that the discovery of this phosphine, these molecules in Venus's atmosphere, does not mean that scientists actually have found proof of alien life. But the detection is simply evidence of a phenomenon that scientists only know to be produced by life. So what they're saying is, okay, could it be from something else? Maybe there's some sort of other chemical reaction on Venus that we don't know about, and therefore we're going to study it more deeply. But it's kind of crazy. So suddenly Venus went from being this like boring, dead gas ball to being one of the most important planets in our solar system, and so close to Earth that we can now study it. It may actually have life. When we've been sending all these probes to Mars looking for dead organisms that we might find, turns out Venus, right next door, may have some signs of life after all. Pretty fascinating stuff. Those are the 5 things you need to know about this morning.